So hello lovely Starlight Tribe. I am making this vlog because I haven't made a vlog for ages, because it's taken me so long to process the Malta journey that we did at the beginning of October. It was a Starlight Soul journey to the island of Gozo in Malta, and as with all Starlight Soul journeys, it combined light work and earth work and grid work and portal work and soul work, and was just in this magical, beautiful, transformational flow. And this journey was epic. It was epic in so many ways that every time I've gone to make a vlog about it, I haven't been able to put it into words, because I've just been like, I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to communicate this amazing thing that I've just experienced. It was a journey to open portals and bring through open portals to 9 lunar temples in Atlantis, and bring through healing and information from that time into the collective consciousness. And portal work is really quite mind-blowing, because you know, you have to remind yourself that you haven't actually taken anything because of the visions and memories and journeying that you're experiencing inside these portals. And it is really quite a trip and quite amazing. And these temples belonged to the golden age of Atlantis, and they were temples for women and unity beings to go through a series of initiations and learn about priestesshood and learn about feminine empowerment and healing and all sorts of things. And we were literally opening up connection to this timeline and bringing this energy through. And with Atlantis, so with these journeys, you're kind of on a personal healing journey, and then you're on the collective light work journey, and it interweaves, and everything about the journey interweaves with the the work that you're doing, both on an inner level and an outer level. It's very 5D, so everything just belongs to the journey. And with Atlantis, when you work with the golden age of Atlantis, you also have to work with the fall of Atlantis. You have to work with the shadow of Atlantis and then heal that time within yourself in order to bring in the treasures, the light information and the light treasures of the golden age. And actually what my guides say when it comes to Atlantis is that if you think of the golden age of Atlantis being like a spiral down into the fall of Atlantis and then into the age of duality, we are now going back up that spiral. So we are going the way that we came from, and we're reversing it and going back up, and that is ascension back up into our Aquarian golden age. And as we get through that spiral, we have to heal the things that happen to us personally and collectively on the way down it, in order to go back up it. And one of the biggest things about the fall of Atlantis was kind of the beginning of the ego's journey and the beginning of the ego. And so whenever Starlight does work around Atlantis, we can expect that there are lessons to be learned for the ego, and probably ego flare-ups that are going to happen. And one of the things that my guides do is they give every single person on the journey a channeled message about what their personal journey is about. And my one was very much about the ego, and I was, not best pleased about that, because the ego is one of the harder things to work on and face within yourself. And my ego flared up massively on that journey within myself. And just so you understand what the ego is, I think my guides put it best. They say that you can tell when you're in your ego because you're comparing yourself to others, and it doesn't really mean if you are. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're feeling better than others. It's just if you are feeling worse than others or better than others. They are both the sides of the ego. They both belong to the ego. It's when you're in comparison with others. And actually what they say is when you're feeling better than others, you need to ground and connect to the earth. And when you're feeling lesser than others, you need to connect to source. And they've used that technique an awful lot in all sorts of courses and things like that. It's really, really useful for anybody that is listening. But what happened for me on this journey was that my ego wounds really, really were brought up by the ceremonies, by the things that happen outside of the ceremonies. Because like I said, on these journeys, the entire flow of the journey, every conversation, every incident, everything that happened in the 3D or in the 5D belongs to the journey. And we had many, many beautiful portal experiences on this journey. Like I said, there were 9 to 9 different lunar temples. But there was one portal that I don't know if I would describe it as beautiful. It was very hard. It was, my guides have forewarned me about this portal, and they said it's a big alchemy portal. It's to do with the fall of Atlantis. It's going to be big shadow work and big energy healing. And of course, like, everybody arrives at this portal just like wired and in their ego and emotional, because your higher self always knows when you're about to have a big healing like that. And so there's huge amounts of resistance at this portal, and huge amounts of emotion. Fortunately, the people that are called to Starlight Journeys are warriors. They are like warriors, because Starlight Journeys are not for the faint-hearted. They are for people that want to do deep core transformational work. So even though people were really flared up, everybody was in their power and in their consciousness and 5D about it. And we did this portal, and it was big and it was huge, and some of the memories coming up from the fall of Atlantis were horrific. Like, the fall of Atlantis was horrific, and it was hard. And also taking responsibility for our collective and individual parts in that was also very hard, and is still hard. But then after that portal, we were all still processing. Some people were feeling really kind of spun out. Some people were still in the alchemy process. And the guides had said that the process was going to continue through the night. And I woke up in the middle of the night, that night. And I've never really experienced anything like this before, but I was like, I woke up and was aware that part of me was dying. And I've never had this experience before. I was just aware that part of myself was dying. And I knew it was part of my ego, and I don't believe that, well, who knows? I'm open to anything happening these days, but I don't really believe you can, certainly at this point in human life, not have an ego. But I was aware that part of my ego was dying. And I felt really calm and really peaceful. And I felt like I just needed to witness this death, and I didn't understand it at the time. But then what happened was the next day I got really, really triggered by the fact that the boat we'd hired, the guy that was doing the boat was being really difficult and was not being embracing of what we were there to do, which was to heal the sea and work with the dolphins. And I had this huge triggering, so much emotion came up in me, so much pressure came up in me, and I went off on my own, and I suddenly had a breakthrough about the ego, and I realised that my ego was kicking off, my ego was getting frustrated, was moving me out of flow, was putting blame on others and putting blame on myself and putting pressure on myself, because my love for myself was conditional. And it was like one of those lightening breakthrough moments where I realised that every time my ego was getting triggered, and I was kind of looking at it through the whole of my life, I was like, my ego has been triggered every time I have felt like my love is threatened. You know, my ego's kicking off when it feels like I'm not going to love myself because of the outcome, or because of a reaction from somebody else, or because it hasn't gone to plan. And I realised that there was this huge gaping gap in my own self-love. And whatever had died in me the night before was the mask that was covering that gap in the self-love. And so I was like, okay, I have got to start to learn to love myself unconditionally. This is the way out of the ego trip that we are collectively and have been collectively on for so long. I've got to start learning to love myself unconditionally, not conditionally, not depending on how well things go, or if people are nice to me or not, but unconditionally. And so I made that commitment to myself that day. We were at the end of the journey, and that led me to a huge personal healing journey that went on for 21 days. And it was physical. My physical body was having all sorts of symptoms, all sorts of releasing. It was dramatic. My ego fought and took me into loads of 3D drama. It was... I had to go deep into my shadow. I had to... So many wounds I thought I'd healed were coming up for me. It was an incredible time, a very hard time. And, you know, Kylie Ma was ass-kicking me from all angles, let's put it like that. And it was this 21-day period where I was really, really forced to face myself from all angles and face the lack of love in myself from the root to the surface. And it kind of just happened. Like, as I made that commitment, life just kind of brought it up for me in different scenarios. So it wasn't something that I was trying to do, but it was a purging that had happened through this commitment that I had made. And I finally kind of reached the end of it. At the time I didn't know it was going to be 21 days. I was lying in meditation after 21 days from this particular portal, and Mary Magdalena was kind of guiding me into this deep self-love healing that was connected to worthiness. And as she was doing this, I could feel like this whole bubble of energy that I'd been in for ages just lifting off me and dissipating from around me. And she was just smiling at me, and she was like, the death of an ego takes 21 days. And I looked, and then I was like, okay, that's a really weird message. So I looked at the calendar, and it had been 21 days since the portal. And it has changed me. It has changed my energy body. It's changed the way I've channeled. It's changed everything. But as with all spiritual work, the realizations about it actually come much later. And there was another theme running through the Malta journey. There was a collective theme for our group, because we were on this deep feminine healing journey. And what came up as we went through this temple journey was that all of us had unhealthy boundaries. We had a group triggering about the fact that actually we'd all had very unhealthy sexual boundaries, that we'd all not put boundaries in place in our lives. We'd all let people, I don't want to say the word abuse, but we'd all let people misuse us or cross lines with us, actually because we didn't want to be the complainy women, we didn't want to be the whiny women, we wanted to be seen as strong, independent women. And so we'd let our bodies be touched, or we'd let our space be misused, or we let ourselves be disrespected. And as a group, we through ceremony and through this triggering, we really came to this massive, like, lightening realization that in so many areas of our life we hadn't been setting healthy boundaries. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about the boundary journey in another vlog. But so boundaries was a really, really big theme of Malta, personally and collectively for our group. And actually, crazily, the Me Too campaign was happening at the same time as we were really bringing this boundary information into the crystal grid and the collective consciousness. And when I was tuning into this vlog today, I suddenly had one of those light bulb moments where I was like, the reason the ego flares up so much is because our boundaries, we're so not setting out the right boundaries for ourselves. Like, we've been so taught collectively not to have healthy boundaries across the board. I'm not talking about just women, I'm talking about men, women, children, businesses. Energetically, physically, environmentally, we do not have healthy boundaries. And so, of course, because we don't have healthy boundaries and we're not taught healthy boundaries, our ego is desperately trying to protect us because those boundaries aren't there. And actually, when you start to invite healthy boundaries into your reality, into your life, the ego can actually untangle itself from that need to protect you. And one of the greatest acts of self-love is boundaries. And on this journey through boundaries that has been kind of dancing with this ego journey that I have been on, I've realised that so many of the things that I thought I was doing for love, when I actually looked underneath them, so many of the things I thought I was doing that were loving, when I actually looked underneath them, they weren't coming from love. They were coming from fear. And that's why my ego has been so tangled up in how to protect me. Because to give the example of this kind of feminine realization we had in Malta, you know, to not say no when somebody is invading your body or your space because you don't want to be a complaining woman, because you want to come across as strong. On the surface, that sounds like a love thing. I want to be strong and free-spirited and independent. But underneath it, it was coming from a fear rather than from the truth of strength and love and independence. It was coming from the fear of not being that. When you people please, you think you're doing nice things for other people, but you're going against yourself and coming from a place of fear you're coming from that place that I connected to that day in Malta, which is, you know, my love is conditional. My love for myself is conditional, so I have to please other people, because if they don't like if they don't like the fact I say no, I'm going to feel bad about myself. You know, or if they, you know, I have to do this to get the reaction that I need in order to feel happy and healthy and good about myself, in order to love myself. So basically, all of this ego reaction and lack of boundaries is rooted into this lack of unconditional love. It is rooted into this idea that our self-love is conditional, that runs through all of society. And what I saw today as I was tuning into this vlog is actually the way to transcend those old collective habits of the ego is to really check in with the boundaries that you are setting and really ask yourself, you know, why am I saying yes to this? Why am I saying no to this? Is this actually right for me? Or is this right from the self-image of me? Is this right for the person that I want to be perceived as being? Or is this actually right for me? And what I saw is that if you can set healthy, happy boundaries that are about total integrity of self, you are showing yourself an act of love that teaches you to love yourself unconditionally. You are also allowing your ego to drop back. You're allowing your ego to take a break and to sit back. And you are separating your ego from your own protection. It's basically choosing to bring in your warrior protection, to bring in your boundaries, which is connected to the warrior and warrioress energy, and allow your ego to put down its shields of protection. And when it does that, what happens is there is a separation, and that separation creates this massive amount of space within your energy body, within your heart, within your life. And space is magnetic. And so all of this magnetic space that is created through that allows for your own expansion and your own evolution. And I literally was shown how that happens. It's like the ego and the ego and our boundaries at the moment are wrapped around each other, because so many of our boundaries are coming from fear of being rejected, from fear of not being liked, from that sense of conditional love. And when we choose to have unconditional love, when we choose to put ourselves first, phenomenally and fearlessly, and actually just be really, really in integrity with what is right for us, moment to moment, we are allowing the ego self and the warrior self, the boundary self, to become untangled. And as they become untangled, there is more space between them. And as there is more space, we become more magnetic and we become more evolved. And we're able to manifest more of what we want out of life, more of our path, more of our truth, more of our light. And so it's a really, really important thing that we are learning in every way at the moment. And I feel like it's a learning of this year, of the rest of this year, which energetically is going to continue on until the eclipses in January. And it is how to invite parts of our ego that are no longer of service to us to die and be replaced by the forgotten warrior energy. And how we do that is by really understanding that we are sacred, that our love is sacred, that our self-love is sacred, that our bodies are sacred. By really honouring that moment to moment, that what is right for us is sacred. And so yeah, I'm starting to understand the Mortar journey even more. Like I said, it was epic. And I'm going to end this vlog in a moment with a little meditation to welcome more of your sacredness, to welcome more of that separation and more of those boundaries with Goddess Venus, who was one of the overlighting goddesses of that journey. What I will say is that feminine journeys are full of twists and turns, and you know, I've expressed such a tiny part of the breakthroughs and what happened on that journey, and I'm gonna, as I'm processing it, I'm gonna make more and more vlogs about it, because it was amazing. All the information about Atlantis was amazing. But one of the twists of that journey was that feminine journeys, like, unlike fire journeys or masculine or unity journeys, they're in the labyrinth. So you're just like, I don't know, I don't get it, I'm just feeling all of this stuff and I don't get it, and you're just in this like womb space. And there isn't like breakthrough after breakthrough. The breakthroughs kind of happen at the end, a bit like a woman getting pregnant month by month and expanding and then giving birth. It's very like that. And this whole journey, we all thought that we were healing the feminine within ourselves. And many of us were battling with it, including me. I was like, I don't like the feminine way. I'm finding this really hard. I've got too much fire energy. I can't surrender to this. I'm really, really struggling with it. And many of the other people were. And right at the end of the journey, in the final portal, the guides were like, just so you know, you have been doing this feminine journey through these 9 initiation temples, but you have been doing it on your masculine side. And so you have been doing it on your masculine energy, not your feminine energy. And for all of us, like, the penny just dropped and we were like, oh, that's why we were in such struggle and such resistance to this. And when the... And that's the kind of final thing I want to say, if this vlog resonates with you, is that this misuse of our boundaries is because our feminine and our masculine have also got mixed up. And our feminine warrior is missing from our collective consciousness. Our masculine is, certainly from the perspective of the journey, you know, we realised that we were looking at ourselves as women through the shadow of masculine collective consciousness when it came to boundaries. Things like that, people that are unity beings and are honouring their unity. There's all kinds of things that need to come back into alignment. So if you are exploring boundaries, really invite yourself to ask your masculine side, does this feel right? And then ask your feminine side, does this feel right? And then ask your unity energy, does this feel right? And when they all agree, that's when you know that you're not coming from a place of fear, but a place of love and a place of wholeness. And as for inviting death of the ego, it's tough. It's worth it. It will change you immeasurably. I don't know if it can happen very easily. One of the things I experienced in those 21 days was that years of work was finally coming to completion. And I don't believe I'm completed on my healing journey at all. But it took a long time for that death moment of that part of my ego to happen. So rather than pushing for death of the ego, what I would suggest you do is try and untangle your fear, your ego, and the conditional love of your ego from your boundaries. And that will bring about the death if it's meant to happen, create the space if it is meant to happen. And ultimately it's going to lead to a happier, healthier life, because so much of where you're operating from fear is going to flip and become an operation from love. And that's what Ascension is. So let's do this very short meditation with Venus. When you're ready, closing your eyes, feeling the muscles around your eyes relaxing. As you feel the white, green, pink and golden energy of Goddess Venus cascading into your energy body now. Cascading all around you in folds of light. And as you receive her light, as you receive her love, invite this light to massage into the parts of you that are tight. The parts of you that are shielding you from the pain of conditional love. And there might be some emotion come up, but just allow that to happen. And as these parts have massage, notice where they are. Maybe it's at your shoulders or in your belly. your brow. And invite those tight parts to release. Honouring the vulnerability of softness. And yet giving into these great swaths of love from Venus, who comes to teach us the greatest love of all, which is the love of self. And then dropping down into your belly and connecting to the base love in your belly, the golden love, love that knows, the love that is, the love that is unconditional. That loves you whether you say yes or no, whether the things go to plan or not. That loves you whether people react kindly or not. And feel this love like a fierce golden light, moving up from that belly center into all of the spaces that are being released and loosened through this Venus massage. And choosing to surrender to that golden knowing, to that golden love. To that unconditional love now as it fills your heart. And takes control of your boundaries. As it echoes through your boundaries. Experience your ego dropping back. Relaxing and releasing. As you ask, what is right for me today? And just let the answer come from this golden knowing. And this golden love. Letting this warrior love teach your ego what unconditional protection, what unconditional integrity, and what unconditional love is. And really honouring the space that is being created inside of you. As you breathe in love and breathe out gratitude. Breathe in love and breathe out gratitude. And when you are ready, opening your eyes and noticing how you feel now. As you send your love and gratitude to Venus, feeling her energy leave. And I would love to hear from you if you have questions. I have so much to share about this amazing year. And I'm going to start doing more vlogs. For those of you that would like to journey with Starlight, our next journey is a short one to Avebury. And actually, as Starlight journeys go, I think it's going to be lighter than normal. It's really about integrating the year, this amazing 1 year, and rebirthing the heart, where you bring more of your soul heart energy into your heart chakra. So because it's heart based and integrating based, I think it's going to be lighter, but there's still going to be loads of portals and magic and sound ceremonies and lovely things. So if you are called, it is a soul calling, we would love to have you. I hope I've explained what I mean about egos and boundaries, because I feel it's really important at this time. And you can use that Venus meditation to help you realign your boundaries. That's what it's all about, realigning our boundaries into love, out of fear into love. So much love to you all, so many blessings, so much freedom, so many boundaries, so much peace and light and truth. I love you all. Mwah.